Great War is here.
Unsullied Recap, Game of Thrones Season 7 Episode 2, Stormborn. Spoiler note, the discussion in this post is primarily for non-book readers. Book fans can discuss the show only here. We ask that all Unsullied book readers refrain from posting any mentions, references to the books in the comments here, veiled or otherwise. No spoilers, at all. This show is best viewed without knowing all the surprises beforehand or afterwards, so please be respectful of your fellow fans. Thank you. Twists and turns. Plots and schemes. An Unsullied love, because the Unsullied need love too, damn it. Chapter 2 is in the books, but not in the books, as we quickly make our way through this abbreviated season of Game of Thrones.
Yeah.